Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Good morning. My name's Andy Horowitz. I'm a history professor at UConn. I have the privilege of serving as the Connecticut State Historian. And if history teaches you anything, it's to never doubt the possibility of surprise and the unexpected, which is my way of saying I did not know I was hosting today's event until almost 2 minutes ago. But it's my privilege to do so, and I want to start by welcoming Mayor Arunan Arulampalam of Hartford to say hello to everybody.
Well, thank you all for being here. I am sorry I'm going to have to be one of those politicians who speaks and runs, but I have a flight to D.C. that boards at 11:30, and that's a great thing about being in Hartford in Connecticut, is that we've got Bradley Airport, in which you could do a press conference and leave at 11:10 and be on a flight within the hour. But that's not the only thing that's great about this city and this state. We're here to talk about the incredible history of the city, the incredible history of the state. We're obviously standing here at the old State House, the site of, actually, a point of personal privilege, it's the former site of Center Church, where my wife is currently the minister at Thomas Hooker's church, but it's also the site in which they signed the fundamental orders. But arguably, and I'm sure the historians in the room will scoff at this, arguably the first constitution in the Western world. It's also a site where, just right around the corner, Washington met with Rochambeau to negotiate French involvement in the American Revolutionary War. Historic moment, just feet from us. It's a block over from the street where for the very first time in our history, a U.S. president rode in an automobile. It's Teddy Roosevelt riding in a Pope automobile manufactured here in the city of Hartford. This is a city that for the vast majority of our 250 years has been at the center of American history. We were a city that was engaged in those conversations of who this nation is going to be, what we're going to be, what our values are, what our shared values are, and what that means for the future. And for 250 years, this has been a great American city. And in the last 50 or so years, I think we've lost sight of that, and that is a blip in time. This is a great American city, and this is a city that will continue to engage in the conversation about who this country is for the next 250 years. And so we're here today to talk about America 250, which is a celebration of those 250 years, but also to kick off in the city of Hartford what we are calling Long Weekend, a 5-day festival of arts, of ideas, of conversations about who we are, a showcase of the greatest arts that are in the city, the food that we have in the city. It's going to end on July 5th with what we're calling America's Potluck. Every state is doing it, and we're going to host it here. We shut down a city street and have a potluck and come together as neighbors at a time when the country is pulling away from each other. We in the city of Hartford are working every single day to come together, to pull together, because the things that unite us are so much stronger than the things that divide us. 250 years ago, a Sri Lankan immigrant born in Zimbabwe who grew up in this country would probably not be a candidate for mayor of the city of Hartford. 250 years ago, many of you who are sitting in the seats that you're sitting in the positions you're sitting in, wouldn't be in those positions. That is the greatness of this story, that my story and many of your stories could only happen here in this place because of folks who came before us and sat in these exact rooms. And it is our desire to not just remember that, but to fight for the next 250 years to build a stronger and more vibrant community in which we uplift one another, in which we are there for one another, in which we grow as a city, as a state, and claim our rightful place of prominence. Hartford is a great American city, and you will see that over the course of this July 4th weekend, and we're really proud to celebrate it with all of you. And I'm sorry I can't say for the rest of the speakers, but thank you to the governor, thank you to the America 250, to their congressman, to the America 250 committee, to Denise Merrill, the wonderful former Secretary of State, and to all of the funders for all you are doing to make this possible. And thank you to my team at the City of Hartford, to Shannon and Tanisha and everybody else here. Thank you guys. Have a great day.
I'd like to welcome now our Director of Tourism, Rachel Lenda, who will sing the national anthem.
If you would please rise. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Wow. Okay. Next up, I'm proud to introduce our former Secretary of the State and the chair of the Connecticut, I think technically we're the Semi-Quincentennial Commission, but we claim Noah Webster in Connecticut, who gave us American Vernacular English, so we just call it the 250th Commission, Denise Merrill.
Took me 2 years to learn how to say that. That's why I now say America 250. Well, thank you for having me here today, and this is a great moment because it was 4 years ago, July 1st, that the governor signed the executive order that created the commission to commemorate, celebrate America 250, which is, of course, the birth of the nation, the signing of the Declaration of Independence, and we have lived by those words ever since. So a wonderful moment to be able to look back and look forward. So we started work 4 years ago to bring us to this moment, and we had to decide right off the bat what were going to be the themes of this celebration. It's a complicated question because we're a complicated place, and a lot has happened in 250 years. So we spent quite a bit of time thinking about what are the themes, what are we celebrating here, what do we want to come out of this? And I think in the end I could encapsulate it in one sentence. We wanted to make sure that every Connecticut resident saw themselves in this milestone event, and that every community felt like they were invited to participate. And we started from that premise, and because of that, we have engaged 152 of the 169 communities in this state. That's a remarkable feat. Anybody who's ever been in politics in this state can tell you that every town has its own personality and their ideas about what they would like to do to commemorate things like this. And they have. And you will hear more about that a little later in the program, but that every one of those communities are doing things, and it's at the grassroots level, and that to me is almost the most exciting thing about what we're doing this year. We also have 237 affiliate organizations. Everyone wanted to be part of this, and these organizations are from all across the spectrum of the kinds of organizations. It goes well beyond the museums, libraries, the things you would think about who would be involved in this. It goes to arts and culture and musical organizations, schools, of course, educational associations. So there's going to be an incredible amount of activity coming from all this, and I'm very proud to say it is very grassroots in this state, along with, as you're going to hear, some pretty exciting statewide events as well. We created 4 themes to tie together these ideas, so I'll just briefly tell you what they were. The first one, and I think in some ways the most important, was to tell inclusive stories. You know, there's always a temptation at a moment like this to go back to the tried and true, you know, dressing up like Benjamin Franklin and so forth, and, you know, reenacting things, and, you know, retelling those stories we all know. But it's also a moment we can start to tell stories that that maybe haven't been told or haven't been told well enough. And that goes to this idea that we wanted every single person to feel like they were part of this story. So that, it's a big challenge. Even in a small state like Connecticut, we've got a lot of different groups that made a lot of different contributions to the American story. So that was, we are encouraging communities to tell those stories, specifically about people who have historically perhaps been unrepresented. The second theme we had was the power of place. So that's what I mean when I say, this is a grassroots thing. Connecticut, of course, is one of the first, 13 original colonies. We do have, as Arunan said, an incredible history here. And sometimes maybe I think we haven't told it as well as we could. So this is a moment we can do that. It wasn't just Massachusetts, And then we have doing history. We want Connecticut residents to actively engage with history. It's all around us in our state. I happen to have grown up in California, and there was, a different history in California, but it's not all around you like it is here. I mean, all of us live in communities where there are, historic places that people actually were and doing all these things, for example, right here. So that is an incredible advantage for those of us in Connecticut. So we wanted to go back to that, and especially with the children and the next generation, showing them how to access their own history. And the last theme was for what we call for the common good. When I was a teacher before I was in the legislature or in politics, and we used to talk about doing things for the common good in the history classes. I actually produced a little curriculum about the history of Connecticut when we had the 350th anniversary of the fundamental orders that Arunan was just referencing. So we want to think about that word, common good, because it seems like today people are pretty much thinking about themselves and not so much for their community and the community values that we treasure and that are embodied in what we're celebrating today, the Declaration of Independence. So, and we also want to look ahead. We don't want this just to be a commemoration that looks back 250 years and where we've been. We want to know where we're going. Where is this taking us, and where should we be looking for the next 250 years? So it's not just about history, it's about reflection, inclusion, shaping the future. We have a unique opportunity to highlight the role of Connecticut. I am so thankful to the governor for giving me this opportunity. I could have just been home watching TV, when I retired. So instead, I chose to do this, and I couldn't be more happy about it. And I'm so glad to see us coming here today and look forward to telling you all about all the exciting events we're planning. Thank you very much.
You'll notice in the lobby there are some examples, 4 examples of some of the dozens of new historic markers that I've produced with the Department of Transportation and some students from the University of Connecticut, each of which tells a unique Connecticut story through an object. We call it Objects of the Revolution. And I'd like to take the MC's privilege to share with you just one of the stories that you'll start seeing popping up around the state this summer. It goes like this. On July 9th, 1776, the Declaration of Independence, then 5 days old, was read aloud to Continental Army troops in Manhattan. They were worked into a patriotic fervor, and some of the troops and other onlookers hastened a mile downtown to the park at Bowling Green, where there was a 4,000-pound gilded and lead equestrian statue of King George III. These newly self-declared independent citizens tore that statue down. They hauled it to the home of Oliver and Laura Wolcott in Litchfield, where they and other Connecticut townspeople melted the statue down and recast it as 42,000 musket balls for the cause of democracy. Now, I tell that story today because it reminds me that history isn't meant to stay up on a pedestal. History is the creation of the future out of the past. History is the inheritance that we have available to us as we try to construct a future. And those patriots in 1776 knew something about how to put history to use. So as we commemorate the founding of our state and our country this season, as we retell enduring stories and discover new ones, I hope we can find our own productive uses for the past that we've inherited and use them to transform the future into one that we would like to live in. And it's in that spirit that I'm very proud to introduce our kid governor, Tessa Hallinan from Green Acres Elementary School in North Haven. She's going to read excerpts, I think, from the Diary of Elizabeth Foote from Colchester. Is that right? Well, welcome.
My name is Tessa, and I'm from Connecticut. Abigail and Elizabeth Foote grew up here too, in Colchester, and this is an entry from their diary. News of fighting at Lexington and Concord reached Colchester on April 21st, 1775. In the morning, we heard that they had begun to fight at Boston, Betty wrote, her breathless entry continuing under the next day's date. I just got the work done up and the quills filled when Jonah came and told me I must go to making biscuit for to carry to fight the regulars, which I did, and baked a pudding, and you may guess the rest.
Great job. And now we're honored to have a longtime champion for Connecticut and one of the state's strongest advocates in Washington, Congressman John Larson.
Well, good morning, everyone. It's always great when we get to celebrate history, isn't it? You know, and what a great job by our singer. Thank God, you know, I so deeply appreciate it, because you know that Governor Lamont was going to sing. But thank you, Rachel, for the beautiful, Governor, you couldn't have appointed a better person than Denise Merrill. Someone who herself is steeped in the history of this great nation, especially as our former Secretary of State. I love the themes, especially as a former high school history teacher. Well, I wish I had a student like you, Governor. You did a great job. But especially the fact that history and civics are so vitally important. You shouldn't be able to graduate high school unless you can pass the same civics test that we require of immigrants coming into this country. Don't you agree? And it's in the celebration of that history that we learn the significance and importance of 1639. The fundamental orders are historic. They were the framing for our Constitution. In this day and age, in spite of the current resident in the White House, the Constitution is who we swear an oath of allegiance to as elected officials. And we must always follow the rule of law. And I hope throughout this celebration of 250 years, by the way, I was not in Congress at the time, but I do want to engage everybody in the teaching of history and civics and just knowing how important that is to the very fabric of our democracy. Thank you.
As we commemorate the 250th, it's also, of course, an extraordinary opportunity to share Connecticut with people from across the country and those of us discovering new places at home as well. So to speak about the role of tourism and statewide experiences will play in the 250th, I'd like to introduce the Director of Connecticut Statewide Marketing and Tourism, Morgan Nyrick.
Good morning, everyone. America's 250th anniversary is a once-in-a-generation moment, and Connecticut has an extraordinary story to tell. Here, history isn't behind glass. It's alive in our towns, our streets, our coastlines, and our communities. From pivotal Revolutionary War moments to centuries-old inns, maritime heritage, historic town greens, and cultural landmarks, Connecticut offers countless opportunities to experience the stories that helped shape our nation. These stories are not only meaningful, they're powerful drivers of travel and exploration. We know from past campaigns that storytelling drives visitation. People want experiences they can touch, see, and be a part of. CT250 takes that idea to a new level, creating opportunities for visitors and residents alike to engage with history in a way that feels tangible, immersive, and personal. This is both a cultural opportunity and an economic one. CT250 will drive visitors into small towns and main streets across our state, supporting local restaurants, shops, hotels, museums, and small businesses. Every community has an opportunity to benefit from this historic moment. With this in mind, we've built a website to help people discover and explore the hundreds of CT250 experiences happening across Connecticut. On 250inct.com, visitors can find a calendar of events, attractions, exhibits, performances, reenactments, and articles that help people explore Connecticut history in ways that match their interests, whether they're looking for family-friendly activities, museum experiences, living history events, or something happening right in their own community. And the momentum is already building. In just the past few weeks, visits to the site have increased by nearly 1,000%, showing just how much excitement and curiosity there is surrounding America's 250th anniversary here in Connecticut. Some of the signature events ahead include a statewide bell ringing on July 4th at 2 p.m. with all 169 municipalities joining a synchronized national celebration. I think that's pretty cool. A public recommitment ceremony at the state capitol in Hartford featuring a reading of the Declaration of Independence. Hartford Bonanza at Bushnell Park with live music, family activities, a civic marketplace, and one of the region's largest fireworks displays. And immersive experiences across the state, from the Greenwich Dutch tall ship arrival to the Deep River muster, Revolutionary War encampments, and living history programs that bring Connecticut's story to life in unforgettable ways. This anniversary is about strengthening community pride, supporting local economies, and reminding people why Connecticut's story matters, not just in our nation's history, but today. We invite everyone to come experience Connecticut, explore our history, and celebrate America's 250th right here in the place where so much of that story began. Thank you.
Take the quick privilege of sharing one more story that will be appearing on one of these signs around the state. It's about Lemuel Haynes. Lemuel Haynes was born a few miles west of here in 1753. As a child, he was indentured to a blind farmer in Massachusetts. When he turned 21 in 1775, the first thing he did upon being released from his indenture was to join the militia. He served for about a year, he saw battle, and then he began to study theology. In 1785, he became, I think, the first black man to be ordained as a congregational minister in the United States, and his first pastorship was in Torrington. Before that, right after he finished his military service in 1776, Haynes heard or read the Declaration of Independence. And I know this because he transcribed its preamble on the first page of a sermon that he wrote. And he probably shared this sermon with people in Connecticut, but there's no record of that happening. In fact, that document sat unread for more than 200 years until a historian found it in a university library in a box labeled Miscellaneous in 1983. In 1776, Haynes had written this, and I quote, "What is precious to one man is precious to another, and what is irksome or intolerable to one man is so to another, considered a law of nature. Therefore, we may reasonably conclude that liberty is equally as precious to a black man as it is to a white one, and bondage equally as tolerable to the one as to the other." And Haynes entitled this sermon, "Liberty Further Extended." And I share it today to say this: we can always discover new things about the past, and doing so can transform how we understand ourselves in the present. In this case, I think it reminds us that the golden rule has always been radical. I hope we can also take inspiration from the historian who kept digging for new truths, from the audiences who listened to Lemuel Haynes' surely radical ideas, and from this Connecticut veteran who harbored a vision of liberty further extended. And with that, it's my great honor to formally kick off the statewide celebration of the 250th by introducing Governor Ned Lamont.
birthday, America, right here at the old State House, almost as old as the country itself. And move over, Virginia, move over. Boston, this is Connecticut. We are the heart and soul of the founding of this nation, and that's what this celebration is going to be all about. Denise, thank you for taking the lead. As you point out, the story of Connecticut is the story of our country. We're called the Constitution State. Okay, pizza capital of the world, but I think this year we're the Constitution State. Who's the one person who signed the Declaration of Independence, the Articles of Confederation, and the Constitution? Mr. Civics lesson, Roger Sherman. Yeah, with my auto pen. Yeah. That's, I regret that I have but one life to give or lose for my country. Nathan Hale, thank you. We're known as the provision state. That's how George Washington thought about us, because we made a lot of stuff and grew a lot of things that the Revolutionary Army needed desperately. The British took us on for that reason, destroyed a lot of our supply depots, including down in Danbury early on. Then they were coming up through Ridgefield, Connecticut, early in the Revolution. And who was the celebrated American general who stopped the British in the Battle of Ridgefield? Celebrated at the time, I'll give you a hint. Benedict Arnold. Had the horse shot out from under him. But it was maybe a tactical victory for the British, but it was an example of America standing up for who we are and what we believe. You know, fortunately, Benedict Arnold fell in love with a young socialite named Peggy Shippen from Pennsylvania, sort of turned his head. And so when I'm in Norwich, Connecticut, where Arnold was born, I say he was a great American general early on. But when I'm in Groton and New London, where he burnt the place down, and one of the events of the 250th will be burning Benedict Arnold in effigy in Groton, New London. You don't want to miss that one. Arunan mentioned, you know, the role that we played towards the end of the Revolutionary War. We're right over there in Wethersfield, Connecticut. That's where George Washington got together with Rochambeau. You know Rochambeau? No, you didn't see Hamilton? Go, baby, go, Rochambeau? Come on. So Lafayette, you know, saw his statue right up there across from the Capitol, you know, helped bring this together. We wouldn't. And Rochambeau and Washington said, where should we stop the British? And there was a sense that maybe we should stop them in New York, which is sort of a Tory stronghold. And they decided, no, we're going to go to Yorktown. And it was there in Yorktown that America made the stand that turned the world upside down. And there alongside the French. And there that was the military bands that played at the surrender. The world turned upside down. And that's the story that we're telling over the course of the next 6 months. And I want to thank my friend Frank Borges to help take the lead on this, and a lot of the corporate sponsors who made an enormous difference here, telling the story of Connecticut and the Constitution State. And I'm going to be going around, and you're going to be able to see it on social media, and you're going to be able to see it on the website, all the different events that are happening that tell the story of what makes America great. And with that, happy birthday, and to each and every one of you, thank you. You're doing us proud there. You look good. You make me feel safe. Part of my security team. Thanks, everybody.
We got it done in less than 10 seconds per year for the 250, so thank you all for coming. The fife and drum is outside. Look around, and thanks again.